Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Berachos Tav Lamed Vav in the Osauter print. We are going to start a conversation, and hopefully it'll take us to the next plot as well. So, just at the bottom of the page of Lamed Ham and Beis, this story starts. Rav Zera Shara B'Dibura. Rav Zera was giving a hesped, and this is the last sugya, by the way, of all the talking about Avelos, etc. So he was giving a hesped, and all of a sudden he stopped speaking and he fainted. So us and Bain Mizgafine, they tried to straighten him out. They literally thought he died, but then they saw that he was actually alive and was capable of talking. So they said to him, "Whoa, what happened?" So he said to them, "What do you mean? This is the whole reason we came here." The pasuk says, "V'achai yiten alibo." So, like the Mefarshim explained, that he was thinking about death because he was at the funeral, and he actually made an impact on him. I want to read a Gemara at the end, and then I want to come back to maybe explain a little ha'ara on this, and then one quick ha'ara that'll hopefully carry us to the next blot as well. So, the Gemara tells us later on that originally we know that from Bavli as well, that there was something called a shur, which was a line. And we know that in the way that even it's done nowadays, at the end of a Levaya, the Avelim stand in one spot, and then all the people that are being Menachem them, they pass by. However, the Gemara says that originally that was not the Minhag. Well, actually, it started off that way, then it changed, where the Avelim actually used to walk. But in Sipori, they fought. There were some families that wanted to go first, and they argued who should walk first, etc. So then they changed it, and they just said there's too much fighting. Let the Avelim just stay where they are, and everybody will walk by them. So then there's no covet about where they're standing. It's just that's wherever they are. So that sounds a little crazy. Like here, they literally just buried someone, and they're honoring about covet. How could that be? So what's very fascinating is there's a famous line from Yisrael Salanter that they asked him that it says Tov lachas abeis avol melchas abeis hamishtav. So it seems to be that somebody that's around those that passed away, or somebody that deals with it, for example, the people on the Chaver Kadisha that deal with death all day, they should be the greatest tzaddikim because they're fulfilling that pasuk all the time. And so, why is it that you don't find necessarily, no offense, I know many great people that are part of Chaver Kadisha, but why is it that it doesn't seem to make them the greatest Gedolei Hadar, even though they're literally fulfilling that pasuk much more often? They probably go to much more levayas daily, weekly, etc., than many other people attend weddings. So Yerushalmi Salanter said, it's the same thing with a horse and the hearse that carries a dead body. The pasuk says, "V'achai yiten alibo." On the contrary, the more a person is osik in that, it's a great chesed, etc., but the more he becomes desensitized, and if he doesn't have a chai yitin alibo, it's worthless. So that is exactly why I believe the Gemara is ending with this lesson, this story about Rav Zera, that he literally almost died, because that's a great person. He was v'chai yitin alibo. He actually took it to heart. So that's the discussion of all these things, that the purpose of life is for us to take it to heart. And that explains the contrast. The people at Tzipori, these families, that they weren't v'chai yitin alibo. They could literally be at a funeral of a loved one and see life and death in front of them, and that should awaken them, but it doesn't at all, just like Yerushalmi Salanter said, because they're literally like the hearse. They're like the horses that are carrying the dead body, and there's no impact on them because there's no v'chai yitin alibo, and they're fighting about pettiness. So just a lesson to think about, that sometimes in our own lives, we sometimes could be in a place where we could be humbled, but if we don't take advantage of that, and we don't fulfill the v'chai yitin alibo, it's not worth very much. The last thing is the Mishnah on Lamed Vav and Beis, which again we'll start talking about. It says, Nashim v'avadim v'ketanim are patur from Kriya Shema. Now, there's a huge machlokas here, whether it's Doraisa or not. For example, the Bavli in Kedushin Daf Lamed Hey, Lamed Daled, Lamed Aleph, it says that the exemption that women are patur from Tefillin because of Mitzvah Sei Shazma Grama, and that they're patur from Mitzvah Sei Shazma Grama is actually learned from this, not from the Mishnah, but from the fact that the Torah itself paturs. What the exact source is, there's a lot of machlokas rishonim, whether it's Doraisa, etc. Hopefully we'll get to talk about it a little bit more, but there's a very famous machlokas Rashi Tosas that people are very familiar with in this exact Mishnah about whether these katanim that we're talking about, these minors that are patur, how old are they? According to Tosas, he says it must be that they haven't reached the age of chinuch. According to Rashi says that they are higil zman chinuch. The Chorah, the Tosefta in Chagiga, which seems to be the source, and it's also quoted in the Bavli and Sukkah, Daf Mem Beis Amud Aleph. So it says that as soon as a child knows to talk, the father should teach him the first pasuk of Shema, and then of course the Bach and Orach Chaim Siman Ayin talks about how it doesn't just mean the first pasuk, it means more, but hopefully we'll get into this discussion a little bit more, what exactly the Yerushalmi's opinion is. There's a very famous Tosas Reki Veger on the Mishnah here, and the Mara Panim has a whole shtickle on it as well. Ayin Sham, hopefully once we have a little bit more background in the next plot, then I hope to be able to come back to this Bli Neder. Have a great day.